Reason to believe that he was moonlighting as a psychic.
That's absurd.
He was one of my best postgrads. A true skeptic.
Oh, I'm sorry, but your daughter convinced ourselves there might be a miracle. Classic denial.
He's trying to tell me who killed him. Frank McLean.
I don't trust anyone else in this world or the next.
So what are you telling me? Crane had Reuben killed in order to silence him?
I can't be seen with you.
Vicky!
You look in the centre of the bruising, you'll see a tiny hole, which may seem familiar.
Same as the one on Reuben Beatty's arm. Someone just banged into her. Next thing, she's on the ground. This figure in a hoodie ran off, got away.
Man or woman?
No idea. Quick on their feet, I'll give them that.
Injected, same drug, torphin. I heard you were with her when she died. That's rough, I'm sorry.
Yeah. At all, Finn, we've had a result from our inquiries. Garsington Equine Centre reported the theft.
Sleepless night.
I should have stayed with her. When she told me about Crane, she was scared for her life.
Well, don't give yourself a hard time, James. Professor Crane's her boss. He got her into it. See what he's got to say about it.
Expecting Inspector Lewis?
Yeah.
Lucy's super. This is exciting. Do you like horses, Inspector?
When I bet on a winner, yeah.
It's my passion. I eat, breathe and sleep horses. You should come for a trek. The old plodders are quite safe.
Never underestimate a plodder.
I'm sorry to have to bring you in at what must be a very difficult time for you.
Don't be. You have an investigation to conduct. But if you're going to ask me the same questions about Vicky that you've asked me about Reuben, then I'm going to give you the same answer. I have no idea why anybody would want either of them dead.
Could it have something to do with the work you've been offered, Professor?
Work?
For the military. I understand you've been offered a great deal of money to undertake it. And Reuben was jeopardizing that by threatening to go public about it. That would give you motive for Reuben's murder and probable cause for Vicky's.
Who told you this?
Did Vicky come to see you after Reuben was killed? Did she ask you if you'd killed him or knew anything about his death?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Where were you between the hours of 4 and 5 yesterday afternoon?
That's easy. I was doing my daily jog, and if you want to check that, you can ask the man at the juice bar in the market. I always buy a drink there.
You said on the phone that a small amount of torphin had disappeared from your stock?
0.25 milligrams, to be exact. I had no idea it was missing until your lot asked us to check. We only use it in emergencies, until the vet can get here.
Whereabouts is it stored?
All our pharmaceuticals are kept in the dispensary. I'll show you. I have no idea who might have taken it. Has someone abducted a horse or something?
Were you approached by the military to design a trial for them?
No, but I do find the idea intriguing, I must say. What sort of trial?
Have you signed the Official Secrets Act?
Let me tell you about Reuben and Vicky. Reuben was the clear-headed one. He was, driven, detached. My protégé, in fact.
You set up shop as a clairvoyant. He didn't tell you, your protégé. He branched out with Vicky. That must have stung.
Now, Vicky, the total opposite. She's brilliant, but excitable. The type of person who may well submit to hysterical conspiracy theories to justify the object of her affection's death.
Are you claiming that you didn't approach Vicky to assist you in the trial instead of Reuben?
Had there been any sort of trial, I assure you I would have favoured Reuben over Vicky.
This cupboard is always locked, and I keep the keys in the office. I'm the only one who can administer it, and always with an antidote to hand. An accidental injection can be fatal for a horse.
For a human being, too.
Gosh, yes. You're not telling me it's been used to kill someone?
2 people, in fact.
That's awful.
How many people have access to the office, Lizzie?
Lots of people.
And how often do you do a stock take?
We do one annually. In fact, we're probably due for one round about now, thanks for the reminder.
I'm going to need a list of all your staff and paying customers.
I understand your position. You have a great deal to protect, a great deal to be frightened of.
Nothing to be afraid of, I'm telling the truth.
Reuben Beatty was drugged and then kept alive knowing that he faced certain death. Tortured. Terrorized for information, maybe. Doesn't that bother you, Professor? It takes a lot of effort to keep your hands still, doesn't it? I was watching you earlier through the mirror.
Studying the lab rat, eh? I'm trapped. Don't forget I'm used to sitting where you're sitting.
Deconstructing people.
Helping them cope with the truth. Or, failing that, working out why they're in denial.
Denial of what?
That they aren't part of something greater than themselves. That this is it. You know, we're no different, you and I. Here you are, trying to break me down.
Except your subjects aren't criminals or liars.
You've no real evidence, therefore you've no reason to keep me here. It's quite in keeping with the blindness of your faith. My little test. Those who don't believe in God readily admit it.
I'm keeping you here because I think Vicky was telling the truth. And you're not.
Then talk to me when you have some proof.
You can tell how busy we've been, and this is without the drop-ins and the holiday makers.
Thanks. When was the last time you used a torphin?
Less than a year ago. It was awful. A dressage horse slipped and broke its leg during training for a national competition. It hit the ground and rolled onto its rider, a teenage boy. He was crushed from the waist down. His mother was running the session, a championship rider herself and very ambitious for her children to follow in her footsteps. We suspected she'd been pushing the horse and son too hard.
Into my heart an air that hills, from yon far country blows. What are those blue remembered hills? What spires, what farms are those? This is the land of lost content. I see it shining plain. The happy highways where I went and cannot come again.
So what happened to the boy?
He's been more or less confined to a wheelchair ever since. The horse had to be put down. Not a good day. Everyone was screaming and panicking.
So, amid all this chaos, your stockroom could have been left unlocked for a time.
Yes, I suppose.
Staff, customers, volleys.
Volunteers. Can't get enough of them.
Justine Skinner. Thanks, Lizzie.
Crane's alibi checks out, sir.
What about this work Vicky said he'd taken on, this contract?
No, he's holding out on us. He says it's some hysterical fabrication on Vicky's part.
Can't rule that out.
Well, whether she was right or wrong, he was spooked by something.
Unless he was just grieving.
How did you get on?
0.25 milligrams of etorphine stolen from Garsington sometime in the last year. And guess who volunteers there? Justine Skinner, the cat killer.
Wait, you're saying Justine Skinner killed Reuben? Well, she was in his office.
Yeah, but she was right here in custody when Vicky Wormsley died.
Or maybe she had an accomplice. Maybe one of her clients proved malleable to suggestion.
Whatever. She's our only link between Reuben and the etorphine. So we better keep an eye on her.
What do you want?
If you were kosher, darling, you'd know.
We got Vicky here jogging. That's where I called her name. There, see, she's on the ground. Whoever did it's gone.
Stop it there.
Can you wind that back? Did it stop it there? Can you blow that bit up? Anyone make out if they're male or female?
Someone's just called asking to speak to you in connection with the Beatty murder.
Do they have a name?
Joshua Grace? He says he's Polly Beatty's brother.
Joshua, Detective Inspector Lewis. This is my colleague, Detective Sergeant Hathaway. Is it Joshua or Josh? Josh. Don't be nervous. Anything you tell us here is just between us, okay?
What do you want to tell us, Josh?
You know the day Reuben was murdered? In that office?
Yeah?
Oh.
It's okay. Take your time.
Mum went there.
Where?
To Reuben's office in Oriel Street that day. I know, because I was in a car.
What time is this?
After school, about 3:30. I didn't think anything of it. She's always running errands, but then Polly told me where Reuben's office was. And
How do your mum and Reuben get on?
Mum likes to get her own way. She wants her daughter to get a first in psychology or her son to be a championship rider. You don't really have much say. Look what I had to do to get out of it.
Did this happen at Garsington?
I don't think Mum killed him or anything, but she might know something.
Get over to their house and talk to the mother. She doesn't admit she was in Reuben's office that day. Take the fingerprints. We'll compare them with the unidentified one Socko found.
Hello, Polly.
You found out who did it?
Not yet. Is your mum in?
This is Detective Sergeant Hathaway. He's investigating Reuben's murder.
Oh, do sit down. I hope you've got some news for us.
I think it might be better if I spoke with your mother alone.
This is about Reuben. I've every right to stay.
Darling, why don't you go and check on Sarah?
Mrs. Grace.
Jane, please.
Did you know that Reuben was renting an office on Oriel Street?
Yes. That's where he was killed, right?
Did you know before?
No, of course not.
We have evidence that suggests you did and that you visited him the day he was killed.
What?
I'd advise you at this juncture that withholding information in a murder inquiry is a very serious offence.
Mom.
Yes. I did know about the office.
What?
He was never at home. I presumed he was having an affair. I followed him one day from the department.
You spied on him.
Someone had to make you see sense. I knew you just keep on making excuses
You
for
just
him.
wanted to get rid of him.
I thought if I could give you a concrete reason...
So why didn't you,
Oh,
Mum?
believe me, I wanted to.
Why didn't you tell
Because
me?
I never found him with another woman, all right?
Why did you go to Reuben's office the day he was murdered? Jane.
To talk to him. To confront him. He told me he was doing some counselling on the side. Asked me not to tell Polly. I said I didn't trust him. And I offered him money to divorce her.
You did what?
He said he didn't care whether I trusted him or not. He told me he loved Polly. He was hoping to surprise her with a deposit for a proper family home. For her and Sarah. I didn't tell you before because the next thing Reuben was dead. I knew how it would look.
This is a serious offence. You were the last person to see Reuben alive and you didn't come forward.
I didn't kill him. Joshua told you, didn't he?
You all right?
Yeah. In a way, Mum's done me a favour. At least now I know he did love me. I can't shake the idea of him and Vicky having an affair.
They weren't.
Maybe I should talk to her.
You can't. She was murdered yesterday. You've been convinced that they were having an affair gives you a motive.
You can't think I killed them. No, I was angry with both of them, yes, but only because I didn't want to lose him. I love him more than anything. I could never... He's the father of my child.
Have you told us everything you know?
Yes. Except...
Yeah.
Justine's not picking up, so I'm going round there. Want to know what happened to that tour fiend from the Galsington riding school. What did Josh's mother have to say?
She admits going to see Reuben. She denies killing him. She had motive. She had opportunity, but no reason to kill Vicky. I'll call you back.
I was looking for answers. I couldn't make any sense of it.
I'm gonna need to take this.
God, no. Justine? Justine, who did this to you?
Frank McLean.
Frank McLean, the guy she reckons killed Reuben.
As a result of some message from beyond the grave.
Yeah, but you did warn us that there was a woman in trouble.
Who, Vicky Walmsley or herself?
Well, the afterlife's obviously a bit vague on the specifics. Still, we've certainly got enough to go after McLean for assault.
Well, that's not all we've got, sir.
The hell does all this mean?
Well, according to Vicky, Reuben did his psychic hearings on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so these are his client's initials and the order of the appointments. How many times did Justine's going to visit him?
Just the one.
And he died on a Tuesday. Well, he's booked up for most of the next few weeks, so there should be a JS in here somewhere. Our clients became regulars. He must have been good.
I never realised so many people fell for this kind of thing.
Grief makes people irrational.
Yeah, can't blame them for that, I suppose.
You can blame the parasites that feed off them.
It would come as a hell of a blow to find out that this was some sort of giant scam.
Maybe someone did. There she is, Justine Skinner and FM.
Frank McLean. He was booked at 3, says he left early.
KDSS, Susan Smith, who found Ruben's body.
Lewis. Ah, right. Thanks.
So KD was due in after she left.
We have McLean in custody.
Hello, Frank.
Would you please do me the courtesy of explaining why I'm here?
Maybe you do me the courtesy of explaining how you got those grazes on your hand.
Justine Skinner is in hospital. When you left her for dead,
Oh, please.
she blacked out. If she hadn't been able to reach her phone,
An hour later.
she'd probably still be lying there now.
Well, I am sorry about that, but it's nothing to do with me.
I got you so wrong. I thought, here's a man that wouldn't kill somebody when he can break them down with words. Never had you down as a coward who would beat up a defenseless woman.
When I saw you, I thought, now here's a man that won't present any great challenge with his simple questions and his dumb open face. And I wanted to find out who'd incriminated me, so I fired some names. And you reacted to Justine Skinner. I cold read you in a heartbeat. Shouldn't say lax, Inspector.
A psychic and his colleague have been murdered, and now another psychic has been viciously attacked. Forensics are crawling over our home as we speak.
I only meant to scare her.
She's a vulnerable woman. You violated the sanctuary of her home.
She set me up. She said she'd seen a vision of me in that dead bloke's office. All because I wrote on my blog that she was a disturbed, cat-murdering spinster. So I confronted her, and she came at me, and I pushed her away. And that was all.
Can you read my face now, Frank?
I've never known a man of so much arrogance and self-belief.
Not anymore, he's a mess. What you said before about one of Ruben's clients found out he's a phony, that whatever got them through their pain was a lie.
I imagine they'd feel broken.
Wouldn't Professor Crane's subjects feel the same? Crane says that he wants to work out why people believe in the paranormal, but he's also desperate to prove that any faith, including religion, is pernicious because it affects people's ability to think rationally. He wants to push his subjects to the limits of their beliefs. Maybe he pushed one of them too far.
Vicky and Reuben conducted his experiment. Maybe one of their subjects wanted revenge. Who's that? Mom?
Professor Crane is out of bounds.
What?
Crane is out of bounds.
Says who?
Doesn't matter who.
But, Mom, we need to get into his research files.
You think he's involved?
Well, we haven't ruled out the idea that he might have killed Reuben and Vicky to protect some potentially lucrative source of income. But there's also a second line of inquiry we'd like to pursue with it.
In that case, I'll rephrase. Professor Crane is going to be out of bounds.
As of when?
First thing tomorrow morning.
And you really can't tell us why or who gave you the instruction?
You've got 10 hours. I wouldn't waste your time trying to get anything out of me.
This is borderline harassment.
Your alibi checks out.
Then what are you doing here?
Why are you so jumpy, Professor?
It's because your colleagues have been murdered and you don't want to be next. Don't you care what happened to Reuben and Vicky? What good would that do? She was running for her life. Didn't know if she was safe at home, in the lab, in a crowd. I'm not big on sentiment. They weren't like children to me, but I was very fond of them. And I am so bitterly sorry that I ever got them involved in this sleep deprivation experiment. But please, I cannot disclose any details about my employers.
That's not why we're here. How do you select subjects for your experiments, Professor?
We mainly use adverts in the local press or the Oxford journals or the department's website. Is there a specific type of individual you look for? It varies from one experiment to the next. But why are you now interested in the subjects? We think it's possible one of them killed your students.
We're looking for someone with the initials KD.
Right, well, the details will be in here somewhere.
So how does this work? People tell you what they believe and you disprove it?
Yeah, we question it. We counter their beliefs with logic. We try and understand why they hold on to such views, despite all the evidence to the contrary. They come to us voluntarily. They know exactly what to expect. If we break them down, then their conviction must have been shaky in the first place, so...
Of course, it has nothing to do with you browbeating them into submission.
This last list of volunteers is 3 months ago. There's no one with the initials KD.
The last investigation was a few weeks ago. Vicky led it, under my supervision, and Reuben assisted. Here it is.
An investigation into the mechanism upholding spiritual conviction. Sir.
What is it?
I think I know who killed Vicky and Reuben.
Kneel down! No! Down! What's going on? Alan Dutcher, arresting you on suspicion of the murders of Reuben Beattie and Vicky Walmsley. Who else is in the house?
No one. My wife goes swimming at this time.
Right, get him down the station.
But I haven't done anything wrong.
Search the place thoroughly. Any evidence of the torture? I'm placing a photograph of Reuben Beattie in front of Canon Dutter. Do you recognise this man?
Yes. From the news.
Reuben Beattie was sedated with barbiturates
And then fatally injected with etorphine. You came to see me about it, likened it to euthanasia. Though to me, it sounded more like torture.
You're familiar with barbiturates, Mr. Dutter?
I give Catherine, my wife, a barbiturate-based pharmaceutical to help her sleep.
But you also had access to etorphine, didn't you, when you and Catherine worked as conservationists in Angola?
Yes, but I don't know I'm here. Why do you think I did this?
Did you volunteer for an experiment at the Department of Psychology 3 weeks ago to examine the resilience of spiritual belief when challenged by a sustained attack of logic and reason?
Yes, why?
I'm placing a second photograph in front of Canon Dutter. Do you recognise this woman?
Not sure.
Vicky Walmsley led the experiment, assisted by Reuben Beattie. Sat opposite you, persistently challenged your spiritual beliefs. That can't have been easy. Professor Andrew Crane oversees the experiments for the university's Department of Psychology. You just said you volunteered, Mr. Dutter, and yet you don't seem sure that you met any of the people involved. Reuben Beattie was also a practicing psychic under the name of Randolph James. His appointment book tells us that you visited him regularly for the past 3 months. Your last appointment was on the day he was murdered. So why are you pretending you never met him?
I was ashamed. When Joe died, I wanted to stay strong for my wife. But the grief was eating me away.
So you went to see a psychic?
Yes. And he brought her back. Just like she used to be.
Found anything?
The wife's name is Catherine Dutter with a K.
Dutter's covering for her. She was at the lab. She was a volunteer for Crane's experiment, and that's where she saw Reuben and Vicky.
And Crane. We just found the etorphine.
Get over to his place. Catherine with a K. The initials in Reuben's appointments book are KD. Where is she? Where's your wife, Mr. Dutter?
Let me speak to her.
She isn't home yet. A man's life could be at stake. Stop trying to protect her.
She lost her daughter. You have no idea how close they were.
When Joe died, Catherine looked for her everywhere. Wanted to talk to her. She said the psychic helped. She wasn't living in the real world. All that seemed to matter to her were those sessions with Randolph James. I was losing her to our dead daughter. I signed up for the experiment to prove to myself that Joe was gone. But I wasn't the one that needed convincing. So I sent Catherine in my place. In Crane's lab. She saw her psychic. He wasn't called Randolph. It was Reuben, postgraduate, cold, detached, self-absorbed. She hasn't been right since. Whatever she's done, it's down to me.
Any sign of Crane?
Not here. Neighbour saw him settle for a run about 15 minutes ago.
Oh, it could be anywhere.
Said he always stops in at the market when he goes for a jog.
Meet me down there.
You see a short guy, Oxford professor, comes in here and has a drink every day.
See anything?
Nothing.
Professor Crane! Professor! Look out! You all right? Hathaway, man, talk to me, please!
She got the brace. Oh, God.
Where did you get the atrophy? Catherine?
We used it on elephants in Angola. I smuggled it in, ready for when Joe died so I could join her. But I was too scared. In case Joe wasn't there and it all just went black.
Is that when you went to see a psychic?
I must have been a walkover, because I couldn't stop talking about her. But it didn't matter. It was good. It was like she was in the room. Told me she was healthy, having fun, missing me. Cannon wanted me to do the spiritual conviction experiment. I thought I could stay strong. But it was in a sterile lab, and this girl was grilling me, mocking me, while her boss looked on, observing me like a rabbit in a cage. They were wiping Joe out. All I wanted to do was get out of there, see my psychic. And then I did see him. My psychic. In that lab. Randolph James. The man who brought Joe back to me.
Did he see you?
He didn't look at anyone. He was lining people up to be passed on to the professor.
Why did you sedate Reuben before you killed him, Catherine?
He was happy enough to speak for Joe. I wanted him to know what it felt like to be her.
Vicky? She was just a young girl doing her job.
She had no belief to take. So I took her life instead.
world represents the ending of one cycle of life before the next begins. It teaches us that true happiness lies in giving ourselves back to the world, taking what we've learned and moving forward. But the emphasis is on moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm looking for a new house for us two and my brother.
Great about your neck, eh?
Yeah, who'd have thought rugby tackling a syringe-wielding murderer would be such good physio?
An inch and a half of foam away from certain death. Just think, if you hadn't made it, I might have to go and see a psychic.
Would have been a very one-sided conversation.
You say that now. You'd miss me if you were gone. So, you don't think Justine was the real thing? She knew Reuben had been killed before we told her.
It's strange she didn't tell us something we didn't already know.
Strange how the higher powers are so ambivalent, eh? Come on, let's get back.
I don't think I want to.
Oh, I used to feel like that.
What happened?
The next case?
Can we just sit here for a minute?
Of course we can.
Well, if you like, Lewis, can we suggest a bit of Marple tomorrow night, right here on ITV? She's heading to a London pub run by 3 witches. It's bizarre what the death of an old friend will unearth.